Hello
Hi
there.
there. The Force in Star Wars is built on balance light, dark, and everything in between. So today, we're celebrating May the Force, and I'm ranking the five Love and Deep Space love interests along that same spectrum. Not just by who's good or bad, but by their psychology, their morality, and what happens when love starts to override balance itself. Because none of them are purely light, none of them are purely dark. They all exist on that knife's edge or that lightsaber's edge. We are going from the brightest hope all the way to cold inevitability. It's about consequences. What happens when love becomes stronger than balance? I'm Princess Farron, and let's travel through the deep space tunnel into a galaxy far, far away. Then may the
May the
force
force
be
be
with
with
you.
you.
So, feeling the reluctant light anchored here is our quiet hope, but make it tragic guy. Who could that be? Right? Who could that be? Some characters carry hope even when the galaxy keeps demanding sacrifices, right? And that's Xavier, our reluctant hero. He's the one who walks away from crowns and institutions to become the quiet anchor everyone can still believe in. Balance and fairness are of the utmost importance to him.
Philos' new future can't involve endless sacrifice again.
First of all, just like Luke Skywalker, Xavier comes from an incredibly influential bloodline. He is the crown prince of Philos, an artificial planet where the royal family once sustained their dying planet through the sacrifice of human lives. Xavier discovered the truth, stepped away from the throne, and chose personal connection over institutional power, over lineage. And Xavier became a hermit in his own way, distancing himself from his own home and even the backtrackers so they could chase their own paths, much like Luke Skywalker did while hiding in Octo. With Luke Skywalker, there's a confrontation with the Shadow. Luke, we all know, he faces Vader and the Emperor as well as the temptations of the dark side. Discovering that Darth Vader is his father creates significant doubt and an idea that Luke keeps resisting. That the dark side is part of his lineage, that evil runs in his veins. Luke realizes he's not simply a chosen one, he'll have to fight to stay on the right path. Just as Xavier faced the temptation of following the status quo of his family and planet, he instead rebelled against the established order to fight for what was right. Xavier, like Luke, also adopted a role similar to that of a mentor when he formed the Backtrackers, guiding them so that they could find a way to save the planet that didn't involve the sacrifice of innocent lives. However, the shadow can emerge as a complete collapse of hope, leading to a cynical and hermetic exile. When the hero's epic efforts lead to failure, when the galaxy is not saved, the weight of the myth becomes unbearable. A disconnect to the life force of all things seen as the only reprieve. We still haven't seen Xavier completely fall to despair, at least not that we know of. But we can't forget his Catch 22 story and his codename, Hermit. Xavier walked alone through Earth for a long time after the Backtrackers came apart. Xavier fought for centuries across timelines, protecting the MC through endless reincarnations without ever giving up. He is tempted by darkness, weighed down by the loneliness of it all. Let's remember Fallen Crown, his third miss. Xavier spent centuries fighting revenants in a world devoid of other living beings without ever stopping. But he keeps choosing the right thing. He keeps choosing hope. He is the man who believes in people, even when the stars themselves seem to be against him. That's why I think Xavier represents pure hope in a galaxy or a universe that keeps demanding sacrifices. And that's why
The Force will be with you, always.
the Force will be with you, Xavier. Always. But hope alone can't hold everything together forever. Sometimes what the galaxy needs is control. Now is the time to find out who is our Grandmaster. So, filling the Jedi Council disciplinarian is the I have rules Jedi. Who could it be? It's Zayne. Of course, it's Zayne. Zayne isn't here to believe blindly. He's here to hold the line. I think he'd start as the ultimate Jedi. Calm, responsible, suppressing emotion for the greater good. Like we know him carrying the weight of duty on his shoulders, just like it's another day in the operating room. And in all that, you know who he mirrors?
Mace Windu.
The stoic Jedi Master with ice cold commitment to justice. The purple paradox who walks the edge of darkness through perfect self control. Just like Zayne constantly reigns in his powerful but destructive ice evil. Don't see the similarities yet? Let's talk a bit more. Both are authoritative, sometimes misunderstood frontline fighters who carry immense duty, even when it costs them personally. Mace Windu walked this really interesting line. He literally channels darkness without letting it control him. It's called the Vapad control, a path that leads to the harnessing inner darkness and aggression of the dark side while fighting for justice. That mirrors Zane's struggle with his evil's destructive potential, his self imposed emotional restraint, and his authoritative, misunderstood gravitas. It's controlled authority, the kind of character who understands emotion but refuses to let it lead. That's so Zayne. Remember when young Zayne nearly lost control and almost killed the MC? That's the constant risk of harnessing inner darkness without being consumed by it. It's always a risk and it demands a lot of himself. Zayne is sometimes so afraid of losing control that causes outbursts of powers, of feelings, of desire.
Mace Windu.
Was a master Jedi known for his cold, detached demeanor, often viewed as blunt or arrogant. He is a traditionalist with little tolerance for anything that's not strictly part of the usual set of rules. However, he had a very special ability. He could perceive shatter points, which were, I don't know if you know this, critical weak points in events or individuals. The fractures in fate where a single strike or decision could shatter the flow of events. Now, doesn't that remind you of something? It's similar to Zayne as a master of fate, and especially in his sacred chapter myth, where he computes several possibilities in order to find a way to change the flow of events, to change fate. That's a unique ability. Like they say,
Do or do not. There is no try.
Windu.
has something unique too. For example, his distinctive purple blade, which represents Windu's unconventional path, is balanced by the red of violence and the blue of nobility. So once again, we have the combination and the correct use of the dark tendencies with the light tendencies of the Force. Mace Windu effectively weaponized his darkest inclinations in service of the light. I guess that in some ways we can say he was the perfect example of the balance that the Jedi Order always strived for. They advocated for it, but rarely allowed it. Mace Windu successfully balanced righteous rage with tranquil peace. And Zayne? He embodies that same paradoxical principle by having to save lives as his life mission as a doctor, as well as having to destroy them as the Dawnbreaker and God of Annihilation. But there's more to Zayne than that. I think there's also a clear Qui-Gon Jinn streak. The serene rebel who follows a living force and his own moral compass over rigid rules. Zayne shows this tendency in his Forseer myth, for example. He was bound to serve a higher power, Astra, but he ultimately defies fate itself. He breaks the cycle and chooses the MC's survival over his imposed duty, even at the cost of his own fall from grace. And something similar happens as the God of Annihilation. So, just like Qui-Gon Jinn, he has that subtle warmth and protective guidance beneath the surface, especially when it comes to the MC's heart condition and her safety. He even created a world for her in his Sacred Chapter myth, right? Zayne and Qui-Gon Jinn are like guardians who step away from the rules when fate itself becomes the enemy. Qui-Gon Jinn famously follows the living force, the present moment intuition, the empathy, feel, don't think, over the Jedi Council's dogmatic, future-obsessed rules. That's why he trains Anakin against their wishes.
Clouded this boy's future is.
I take Anakin as my Padawan learner.
Because he operates on his own moral code. Empathy guides him, and even beings like Jar Jar Binks are worthy of his compassion. Zayne, even in his Dawnbreaker persona, can be compassionate, just like when he spent his day with the birthday boy Georgie, even when he knew he was about to turn into a wanderer. Zayne clearly echoes Qui-Gon's compassionate, open-minded mentorship while trying to remain in control. But the tighter you grip control, the harder everything shatters when it finally slips. Ready for the next tier? As for our Grey Jedi tier, we have the Kylo Ren Make It Artist. Yes, it's our fishy Rafayel. We all know Rafayel is a bit of a drama king who feels everything, but that's exactly why he's dangerous. Rafayel doesn't lack control. He's constantly at war with it. He's the emotionally volatile archetype who doesn't fall because he's evil, but because he feels too much. Kylo Ren is the mirror, in my opinion. Both carry deep identity instability and abandonment wounds. Kylo is torn between his Skywalker legacy and the dark side after feeling betrayed as a child by his own uncle and abandoned by his parents in a way. Rafayel is torn between his divine Lemurian legacy as the sea god, his duty to avenge his slaughtered people, and his overwhelming devotion to the MC. As the son of Princess Leia, Ben Solo is a princely figure, grappling with fate, legacy, and above all the shadow of his grandfather Vader. Raphael is also the son of the king and queen of the Lemurians, and an incarnation of the sea god. They both wear a mask of confidence while hiding raw pain. They throw tantrums when emotions overflow. Raphael in his dramatic moments.
It's round, like you.
Grumpy, just like you. So, does that mean I should get it?
Whatever floats your boat. Ugh, I can't even breathe. I'm going home.
Kylo Ren, smashing controls.
May have helped in the escape.
Their archetype is partly based on an identity tension. Who am I? What do I become? Will others accept me when they see the real me?
Ray, I want you to join me. We can rule together and bring a new order to the galaxy.
They both are highly intelligent people, whose intense emotions boil under the surface until something tips the balance. Usually, their instability originates from feeling too much and not through calculation. I'd say they sort of have a pure heart that is easily swayed by turbulent emotions. They're emotionally volatile. Raphael luckily has this art to help him channel a bit of his inner turmoil. But even that doesn't erase the volatility of our Piscean fishy.
And maybe that's why these two have something else in common.
Do you know what? They cross boundaries in ways that aren't exactly healthy. They stalk. Kylo Ren stalked Rey through the woods, and we all know Raphael hired people to get info on the MC, and he kept an eye on her while he was teaching at her university. So, that's another point in common. Raphael's love is addictive and all-consuming. It pulls him between revenge and devotion, God and mortal, his duty towards his fellow Lemurians who lost their true home, and his undying devotion to the MC that led him to defy fate. It feels like
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it.
he's got strong attachment energy. He wouldn't fall out of ambition. He'd fall because his heart refused to accept balance when the person he loves is at stake. So, Raphael fits Kylo Ren not because he's torn between good and evil in a simple way, but because his emotions never fully settle into either side. And when that internal war stays unresolved, it doesn't just destroy you, it destroys everything you love. Ready for the last two tiers? So, filling the Fallen Knight category, we have the I Did It for Love final boss, the Fallen Protector, Caleb. So, Caleb is what happens when love doesn't save you, when love
These games.
undoes you. He starts as the ultimate wholesome protector, the childhood friend, the brother figure, always putting the MC first. In the beginning, his love is about protection. He's there to safeguard the MC, to shield her from harm, to ensure that she never has to suffer. Then, love starts to shift. It grows into something more controlling. Love becomes an anchor that's too tight. His desire to protect her evolves into a possessive need, an obsession with keeping her safe, even when that means restricting her freedom or decision making. He starts making choices for her, convinced he's doing what's best, but it becomes an imposition, one that could eventually fracture their connection.
What? You actually locked me in the attic on purpose?
And from there, it spirals into the final stage, the loss of identity. Love, once pure, becomes his undoing. Caleb loses sight of who he truly is, because every action, every choice is justified by the idea that he's doing it all for her. Love has overridden his sense of self. In his mind, he is still the protector, still the one who will do anything to save her. But in reality, he's no longer the person she fell in love with. He becomes a shadow of himself, consumed by a love that isn't pure anymore. And that's exactly Darth Vader's tragic arc. Anakin began as a loving boy, a hero who would do anything to protect the people he loved, particularly his mother and Padme, even if it meant breaking the world around him. He eventually was corrupted by his desire to save the loved ones, transforming into a cyborg and becoming a slave to his own trauma, and obedient to a ruthless master. Love, when pushed beyond balance, becomes something irreversible. And another thing I believe they have in common is that beneath the pretense of perfect, efficient functioning hides a layer of self-loathing. I'm going to explain. So, Darth Vader and Caleb to a smaller degree, are plagued by a sense of being flawed, unworthy, and somewhat monstrous. And that's why they need external validation. Because for them, it's too hard to believe they could ever be redeemed. We can see several occasions in which Caleb basically begs the MC to accept him, while at the same time fearing she won't.
Yeah. I'm not even afraid of death. But I am afraid of waking up to hear you say you regret this. Just like you did in my dream.
Vader didn't fall because he stopped being capable of loving. He fell because he refused to accept loss.
The fear of loss is a path to the dark side.
I won't let these visions come true, Master Yoda.
And I think Caleb follows the exact same emotional logic. Every boundary he crosses is justified through love. They both experience the fall from wholesome protector to I will do anything, even become a monster to keep you. The tragedy isn't that Anakin becomes Vader. It's that in his mind, he never fell. And that's what makes his story so haunting. He only kept going. And we can't forget that just like Darth Vader, Caleb does have mechanical components in his body. His arm and the Turing chip. The way he was brought back after almost losing his life, just like Darth Vader after his fight with Obi-Wan and Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith. But whereas in Vader's case, all the technology that sustained his life was like an impenetrable wall between him and any sort of redemptive touch, for Caleb, there's still a chance to change in a real relationship with the MC. That it's real, that exists. But by the way, what about Caleb's gravity evil? I can definitely see him using it to force choke someone, so that's another point to consider. But not everyone falls because they lost control. Some people were never out of control to begin with. The Galactic Emperor. Well, there's only one ally left, so we all know who is going to take that tier, right? So of course, our resident Shadow Sith mastermind is Count Sylus. I'm going to be honest, Sylus is probably the hardest to place. Because unlike characters who are driven by emotion or conflict, he doesn't seem to be driven by those goals at all. Sylus doesn't spiral or hesitate, he doesn't fall. He wins because the boss man is always in control. And Mephisto and the twins help him in that call. He feels like Darth Sidious, but hey, not the cackling emperor on a throne. No, nothing of sorts. I'm talking about a mastermind. He's Emperor Palpatine's side, who positions himself above the chaos. He understands how systems collapse, and exactly where to stand when they do. Darth Sidious acts like a devil, cunning and driven. He whispers, tempts, backstabs, and he hoards not treasures, like Sylus, but power. Unlimited power! If you really think about it, one quality they have in common is patience. It was patience that allowed Darth Sidious to succeed where all the other Sith had failed. Sylus, of course, has many other redeeming qualities and is not a backstabber, but the truth is that he was presented like a devil-like figure when he first appeared in Love and Deepspace. Remember the presentation trailer? Everything about it was connected to an evil figure. That's what we were supposed to think about him. Even Mephisto was named after a demon server of the devil, Mephistopheles. But here's the thing. Sylus doesn't react to the world. He positions himself above it. Calm manipulation, long game intelligence, emotional invisibility. An aura farming that inspires fear and crazy rumors. Do you remember all the stories that circulate about Sylus in the N109 zone? It's crazy. Both are always 3 steps ahead, building empires. Sylus in the lawless N109 zone through protocol deals and influence, Darth Sidious through galactic manipulation. Both use strategic thinking and long-term planning rather than raw emotion. So, totally the opposite of Kylo Ren and Darth Vader. Sylus' energy manipulation evil lets him reshape reality to fit his goals with surgical precision. He doesn't need to react to power, he positions himself where power eventually arrives. And then he uses his energy manipulation evil and his intelligence and his courage. Sometimes his recklessness. Because that's what he does. What they both do. Darth Sidious and Sylus bide their time and manipulate reality so that it fits their goals. It's not done out of imbalance or on a whim. It's an intelligent maneuver, like a game of chess. Unlike Kylo or Vader, who are shaped by loss and attachment, Sylus, he calculates the forces that break others and chooses not to be ruled by them. So let's just imagine for a bit. If Sylus ever fully embraced the dark side of the Force, it wouldn't look like corruption. It would look like inevitability. Sylus has redeemable layers like, for example, a protective code beneath the dominance that make him more complex than pure Sith evil. He's the one who makes you question, is he more Sith than he seems? Or has he simply mastered both sides? So here I'm associating Sylus with Darth Sidious not because of his evil soul, that's not at all, but more by the way he dominates, and his intelligence, and his long planning abilities. A strategic thinker that apparently never loses his cool. So we went from hope to control to emotional fire to tragic downfall and to cold inevitability. These characters represent more than archetypes. They're warnings about what happens when love overrides balance. In Star Wars, balance is the goal. But in stories like this and in Love and Deepspace, balance is never guaranteed. Only connection is. None of them are fully light, none of them are fully dark. They all exist in that moment right before choice changes everything. And maybe that's what makes them feel so human and so relatable. In a sense, they're all different answers to the same question. What happens when love becomes stronger than balance? So tell me in the comments, which match surprised you the most? How would you match them with their Star Wars counterparts? Let me know. Also, if you love exploring Love and Deepspace lore and symbolism, check out my playlist on the main story and myth. Links down below. This is Princess Farron signing out. Take care, Gaming, and may the Force be with you!